So, chapter 4 is titled Transcendental Knowledge. So, what is transcendental knowledge? What is transcendental knowledge? Anybody? I have the definition here. And you can put in your own words. Anybody wants to say? What is mundane knowledge versus transcendental knowledge? Maybe that way we can understand. You can unmute yourself and speak. Anybody?
Transcendental knowledge is a knowledge about the divine, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Knowledge of the divine or knowledge about divine. Yeah. So it's not mundane. It is transcendental. It's not available or created within this world. Right? It's beyond this world. The knowledge coming from beyond this world, and also the knowledge that helps to connect with God, divine. So transcendental knowledge is knowledge that connects one with divine. It is also called in Sanskrit. What is the word? Anybody? Shruti, right? Shruti. Shruti literally means that knowledge which is heard, knowledge that is heard. Because in the past, this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, was coming from one person to the another person by word of mouth. They were, people were very uh, capable. They were able to remember and pass the exact same knowledge down down the generations in a parampara. So this knowledge, which is Shruti, which is also called Shruti, this is transcendental knowledge, knowledge that is heard. So this chapter, it has about 42 slokas. We can easily remember with this word ears. Right? You see the boy here, he's just eager to hear. Right? So this chapter reveals us that we should aim to see God through our ears, not through our eyes. Because God is transcendental, one requires transcendental knowledge to actually perceive God. We cannot understand God with our limited senses in the current body. So we need transcendental vision to understand God. So this chapter we can easily remember this acronym EARS. Will expand EARS. What E stands for is eternal education. The first 10 verses talk about that, how Krishna gave, how what is this transcendental knowledge is, and how Krishna has revealed this in this world, and how this knowledge spreads within this world. All these concepts are given in the first 10 verses. Krishna teaches knowledge about the eternal education. Second, Krishna, and the effect of this transcendental knowledge is that it gives accurate understanding. It gives in very clear terms the purpose of our existence. So it is, you can remember with a accurate understanding. It's covered in a small section of 5 verses. And then the effect of transcendental knowledge is it not only gives authoritative understanding and accurate understanding, it also removes any reactions for actions performed in this existence, in this material existence. The effect of transcendental knowledge is it removes reactions. It helps you act on the platform of akarma. And how one can perform how one can perform such action through the acts of sacrifice. That is the last section. We understand how to perform sacrifice, what is sacrifice, and how to perform it. So this is in short. You can easily remember with word years. Now we delve into each of these sections. The first one is the longest. We'll cover that and we'll see. So what do you see here? On the right, you see an iPhone and and an instruction manual. You see that, right? Whenever a product comes in this world, it always comes with instruction manual. Why it comes with that? Please answer. Anyone?
To know how to use the product
Yeah,
properly.
especially when a product comes for the first time into the available market. It's available, right? A new product is released. The first thing the manufacturer would do, or the creator of software system or anything, they would have sufficient documentation. Otherwise, they can't handle with their customer care, right? It's impossible. So they would come up with a manual on how to ideally use the device. So similarly, if you consider this universe, when it is created, it also comes with a proper purpose and a proper function that it serves. Just as gadgets come with their purpose and function explained in the manual, when God created this universe, He also has a purpose and a function that it serves in His mind, and He creates it accordingly. And so, where do you find these details? Like, for example, for an iPhone, we find that in a iPhone manual instructions, instruction manual. So the instructions to understand the purpose and the function of this universe is available in our ancient scriptures, Vedic scriptures. So they contain all the divine knowledge at the time of creation itself. So when the Lord created, He has He has also given the wisdom. And who has He given this wisdom first to? All of us know about that.
Brahma.
Brahma.
Brahma. So how was he given this knowledge? Tene Brahma Hridaya. We read it every day, right? Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavye Muhyanti Yat Surya.
It was
Hmm. It was, somebody is saying, I didn't
it
hear.
was revealed in his heart, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it is revealed in his heart. So this ancient wisdom, this is revealed in the heart of our the first Godfather Brahmaji in his heart. So we find this wisdom, the eternal knowledge, in the same knowledge is later on given in the form of writing by Vedas. And why is this knowledge required to be revealed? Can we know by our own efforts? Can we understand who is God by our own efforts? We cannot understand, right?
No.
Because we are a product of, we are created products of, so we cannot understand our source. So this eternal wisdom has to be revealed, even to the first living entity, Lord Brahma himself. This knowledge has to be revealed. He could not understand his own purpose when he was born. He was like crazy. He was running around up and down the stem of the lotus where he was born without understanding the purpose. And then he was revealed that he should do tapas. And when he performed tapas, ultimately his duties were revealed in his heart in four slokas. It's in Bhagavatam, second canto. In four slokas, the purpose of his existence was revealed to him by Lord Narayana himself. So this knowledge has to be revealed to us. So we are like tiny living entities. We cannot understand. So we also have to be revealed about this wisdom. Sometimes when we meet, people outside, uh, and we ask them to buy a book or read Bhagavad Gita. They say, we already know, but actually nobody knows. This knowledge is, it's open book, but it's locked. Nobody can understand unless they actually receive the grace and mercy of the devotees. Hmm. And Krishna also tells in this first section, how is this knowledge set up? There must be some kind of a arrangement by the Lord. So how he set this up in verse 3rd, that this very knowledge of the relation with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of these signs. Hmm? So Krishna himself revealed this wisdom. He comes time and again to give these lessons. So that is his arrangement. He makes sure at any point in time this knowledge is available for the eligible souls. He's not going to hide it for he's always making it available to the eligible souls. That's what I would put it. And so how he makes sure that this knowledge, the system that he knowledge that he set up in this world continues to exist in this world. So he does that through the help of qualified and saintly devotees, right? That is called also Guru Parampara. Hmm? Evam parampara praptam imam radhasyo vidu. This knowledge was received in this Guru Parampara from a teacher to his student, from him to his student, like that, in a chain of teachers. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. So, this is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge. If you want to receive transcendental knowledge, you must receive in only disciplic succession, because this knowledge has to be revealed. First thing, we learned the first characteristic. It cannot be attained by one's own effort. Second thing, Krishna himself tells he comes once in a while to provide this whenever the chain is lost. And the way to receive is either from him directly or from his from his, the disciplic succession that he started. It has to be one of these ways. So this is how he set up the system. And how do saintly people spread this wisdom? Like, for example, Prabhupada has shared this wisdom with all of us. Okay? So they share this wisdom in a way that is practical to the time, place, and circumstance. Right? That's how Prabhupada has thought. So the same wisdom that was available uh, for thousands of years, they make it. What do these saintly devotees add value? They understand, they assimilate this wisdom, and they share it in such a way that the modern time people can actually apply the same principles. Principle remains the same. Applicability is according to the time, place, circumstance. So they would reveal this wisdom in a dynamic, relevant, and practical way. That's how I put it. So this is how this knowledge is available for all of us. Right? So, and then now we want to understand, okay, so this knowledge is there. This knowledge tells about the purpose of material creation. So, what is the real purpose of material creation? We need to know. So, the real purpose of material creation is not to entertain us, but to educate us to know about God and to love God, isn't it? So, that's what the scriptures say. Hmm? Later on in 10th chapter, and even in many, many chapters, Krishna tells, Bhakto sime priyo sime. So Krishna tells the whole purpose of is to, I love my devotees, and devotees always wants to serve me. They always try to remember me. hmm. In many ways, he tells in many, many slokas. So the whole purpose is to love God. That is this whole material creation exists for this one purpose. hmm. So the material creation is essentially like a university. Universe is a university. And what do we do in this universe? We rediscover our relationship with God. That is the rediscovery we go through in this That is the real rediscovery we all have to go through. Hmm? What do we rediscover? Our own lost relationship with God. That's the only purpose of creation as revealed in Bhagavad Gita. Hmm? So universe is my university. Earth is just one of my classrooms. I found this interesting, so I just kept it here. Universe is a university. That's a very good way of seeing our existence in this material world, isn't it? It keeps on teaching us lessons every single day. And the purpose of all these lessons is, what is it? Two things:
To know about God and love.
to know God and to love God. That's the only purpose of material creation. And now Krishna also keeps on coming to this material world. We all know this, and we know the purpose here. Pavitranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanardaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, as the creator and maintainer, Krishna periodically appears in this world to re-inject the spiritual wisdom that is lost in that parampara, right? Yes. And remove materialistic influences. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. Ensure the smooth functioning of the universe. Dharma should be there. Dharma samsthapanardaya. So these are the purposes for which God keeps coming to this world again and again to help us reconnect to the real purpose of our existence, right? So that's what it is all. Re-inject spiritual wisdom, remove material influences, and ensure the smooth functioning of the um material world. Because ultimately, He's the Father of of all of us. Now, E is covered eternal education. The second aspect, 11 to 15 verses, talk about the accurate understanding that this transcendental knowledge gives us. So, all of us have come to Krishna consciousness in the say last 10 to 15 years, right? And we all lived, say a couple of decades or 3 decades before that. And before coming to Krishna consciousness, hmm, we all understand about kind of some understanding about religion, God, all these concepts. But how do you put them in your own words? What is your understanding of the, who is God and what is religion? What is it? What do you? What was it? Was it very clear before?
So we think we are very clear, but let's say if we would have to talk to an ISKCON devotee at the time, they'll say this is nonsense, right? So,
Yeah,
but in everybody's mind, everybody thinks they are very clear.
yeah. That's what everybody thinks. They think they know. They know what what is God, who is God, because their purpose is clear. They want to enjoy, and God is a partner in that crime, right? So anything they want, they know where to go, and if they don't get it, they know whom to blame, isn't it? That's how the God's relation worked out more for by many people. I'm not saying everyone, but for most of us, it is a business transaction with God. And to that extent, people understand who is God, right? They know that God exists to um, fulfill our desires. That's how they see God as fulfiller of our material desires.
But there was always one confusion, Prabhu. Why
Mm.
so many gods before coming to Krishna
Yes,
consciousness?
yes, we are going to talk about that also. That's coming up. Yeah, and if you question, right? If you question anybody, any of these people who are, who is God? Does God really exist? Always the questions are confusing and hazy, and they think, if you want to believe, you believe in God. If you don't, that's okay. It doesn't matter. So they come to that kind of it. Mostly it is faith in God out of fear of God, isn't it? If suppose God exists, what if, right? But otherwise, there is no conviction, or there is no real reason for their belief. It's just a blind sentiment, I would call it. You know, Uh, that's how it is. So it's quite hazy and confusing. Even before coming to Krishna consciousness, I pursued different paths. I went to Chinmaya Mission. I was into Vivekananda Ashram, uh, Yagoda Satsanga Society, Paramahamsa Yogananda. Uh, I hope some of you have tried those paths also, or at least gone there to their autobiography of a yogi. That was very interesting read for me before coming to Krishna consciousness. Uh, but unfortunately, everything leaves you in a very hazy, confused state. Especially, I used to read Vivekananda books. In IIT, I used to have very little time for this, but I used to read overnight some few chapters of Vivekananda's talks or his classes, and end of it, he would not give any clear understanding. It was like I would read till the end and feel frustrated at the end, like having not got clarity on what I'm trying to pursue. And it went on for a few months because I was having such a high estimate of Vivekananda, and I thought this definitely should give us clarity on what is spirituality. But unfortunately, I haven't got. I tried Chinmaya Mission, and then no, even there was confusion between whether God is person or in person, and they support both ideas. And the Chinmaya Mission founder is extremely worried. He was extremely good at speaking. I would be so impressed, but again, I had no clarity. So it went on forever like this. And then I tried Paramahamsa Yogananda, studied autobiography of a yogi. I used to read day and night that book. And then I used to go to their meditation center, spend my weekends on Sundays, entire Sunday, half day at least. I used to, just like our Sunday program, they used to have their program, meditate. But again, his classes, his books I read, no clarity. Again, everybody leaves you open ended, no authoritative understanding. So this is how it was before for me. But for the first time when I heard ISKCON devotees class in our college, that's when there was a lot of conviction in his words. And then I tried to read ISKCON books. I bought like The Path of Perfection. I remember very well, On the Way to Krishna, Sense of Self-Relation. When I read Science of Self-Relation, I was totally stunned because it gave such clarity on the path. And all his books are very much in sync with their, what they talk. If you read any other books, I'm telling you, you can read Vivekananda books. Each of the books would talk very differently. You cannot have a harmonious understanding. But for the first time, I had that kind of a harmonious understanding between. But I was so hesitant to believe a person to be God. That was my own challenge. But otherwise, I felt authoritative understanding. That I would say very authoritative because the way he would quote slokas for anything he would say, that I haven't seen anywhere. And that gave me a lot of conviction. At least this path should be bona fide. Whether I am able to accept this at this point, but luckily, I had a teacher. He would come every week once and give the classes, and it gave me solid foundation that actually, at least, this path seems bona fide. That's what I got convinced about. Hmm? So that's what happens when if you are luckily directly jumped into Krishna consciousness without having tried any of this, you may not be really appreciating the depth of what you have received. But for those who have tried other paths, they can really tell you how how authoritative these books are compared to any other books. So transcendental knowledge gives a very accurate understanding, very clearly, very crystal clearly. You know who is God, what are his characteristics, what he wants from us, who we are, why are we here, and what is the purpose of life. So many questions are answered in just reading of one book. Any of Prabhupada's books, you can get all these things. isn't it? So it gives accurate understanding. And this happens because this is knowledge revealed in Guru Parampara. Hmm? So it is as good as receiving directly from Krishna. So when transcendental knowledge is received through the eternal education system, one gains an accurate understanding of the purpose of existence in this world. So in this section, Krishna also clears up three common misunderstandings. What Narhar Priya Prabhu was asking is one of them. So we'll go one by one. So in text 11, Krishna clarifies about this, all are surrendered unto me. As all are surrendered unto me, I, I reward them accordingly. According to your surrender, you will attain the result. Because everyone follows my path in all respects. So every path, everyone, whether you are advancing in spiritual path or going back in your efforts to advance, whatever it may be, everything is an arrangement of the Lord, right? So this goes against this prime misconception that was introduced by Ramakrishna, right? Yatomat tatopat. So as there are conceptions of God, so are there many paths to achieve God. That's what this means. Means suppose you want to, so one of the Vivekananda's saying is, you can achieve God even by becoming a football player or something like that. So as there are as many as there are ideas about God, so many are the paths to achieve God. That's what it means. But actually it is wrong. Hmm? So Krishna is the one who awards, and he awards according to surrender of a jiva. Hmm? So all spiritual paths, whatever I want to do, not even spiritual paths actually. Vivekananda says, whatever path you pursue, you would reach the same destination. So Krishna explains that while there is unity in diversity, there are also different gradations of spiritual elevation. So Krishna tells about Karma Kanda, then Karma Yoga, and then Jnana Yoga, and then Ashtanga Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga. So these are all gradations. Not everybody is eligible for any of these. By the mercy, one can, even though one is low, he can be elevated to perform bhakti. But otherwise, if you depend on your own strengths, you will be, pursuing path in a linear fashion from these levels, from animalistic life to karma kanda to karma yoga, then uh, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and bhakti yoga. They are not same. So the revelation of absolute truth is according to the system of surrender one has taken to. If you take each of these as a system of surrender to the absolute, so based on where you surrender, your results will be awarded accordingly. That's clarified here. And then second misconception about Hinduism in general is Hinduism is polytheistic, which means they have many gods. If you want something, you go to this god. If you want this thing, you go to this god. So this is one prime misunderstanding about Hinduism, especially people in the West, European countries uh, and in the America and other countries here. So they all talk about this, North and South Americas. Whenever they talk about Hinduism, they say, oh, they believe in many gods, polytheistic. Hmm. But actually, 12 reveals who is God and how Krishna is different from the demigods. So he says, men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. It says, only those who are, desirous of fruitive results, they would worship demigods. Demigods are different from him. They are the in charge of the material affairs. Because they are the in charge, they can provision for those who are worshipping them. And so, people who are after material desires, they can worship those demigods. And actually, Krishna clarifies in the next verse, in fact, I am the one who is giving them indirectly, but they are coming indirectly through the demigods. They could have directly come to me and asked the same thing, but they're coming indirectly through the demigods. So this clarifies the misconception that especially Eastern scriptures were known to be talking about polytheism, but actually Krishna very clearly clarifies that these are demigods. In fact, and he clarifies, only by surrender to him, that is how one can achieve the highest perfection, right? In the last verses in the 18th chapter and all. So ultimately, Krishna emphasizes that the real process is to practice monotheistic religion, which is worship of one God. There is just one God, and surrendering to Him is the ultimate process for achieving perfection. If you have any questions, we can discuss anytime. Okay, tell me. Any questions on this, the previous one, or any other so far?
One question, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu.
If somebody outsiders asks why do we need to have many gods, so in that case we give that hierarchical example of ministers and president, everything, right? But Lord is not dependent on them, but it's giving the opportunity for the souls to serve them through that position, right?
Correct.
So can we add anything else on the top of the program?
Well, what do you want to add? Can you...
To adding some other example, why do we need to have many gods? Apart
Yeah.
from that example, anything else can we add?
Yeah, one is cabinet ministers. You can give that example, right?
Yeah.
Because they all want to serve God, and they are all more surrendered than all of us. So God has arranges these demigods to be part of His service to the jivas. He could have done himself, but He wants to engage these, these higher living entities in His service, so that they purify. So they need also purification, right? So everybody needs service according to his level. Just like in our temple also, somebody would be serving prasadam, somebody would be giving class. Everybody is given service according to his level. So similarly, even in the country, those who want to serve with more dedication just for people's sake, they would go to politics and they become ministers, for example. Not everybody is ideal character, but at least that's the goal.
Yeah, purification, good point, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yeah.
So each level requires purification. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yeah. Similarly, another example you can give is, for example, um, when uh, when a young baby is born in the home, parents, when parents had the first child, they were taking care of the first child only. When the young baby is born, the elder one also takes care. In fact, he gives more time than the parents, because that's how she wants to serve her parents, right? That's where her joy is. So it's like that. Demigods are higher living entities. They need to be engaged in some service, and for their own purification, they would like to do this service. Yeah. Another big misunderstanding. I remember one of my friends used to argue, in Hinduism, it is very bad because it created a very unfair caste system. Right? This is one thing they would blame on Bhagavad Gita. He said, "Oh, Bhagavad Gita, it talks about caste system and all. I don't want to read that book." I was like really surprised. But actually, that is a misconception. Krishna says, according to the modes of material nature, guna and karma, that a jiva is associated with, the jiva is divided or placed into one of the 4 human societies created by me. Chaturvarnam maya system. Guna karma vibhagasya. It's not janma karma vibhagasya. It's not based on birth, but by the nature and the work that a jiva is inclined to perform. Based on that, a jiva's social category is, based upon. So, although I'm the creator of the system, you should know that I'm yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Why he's non-doer? Because it's by one's own nature, it's decided where where he's placed. Hmm? So this verse clarifies the concern that caste system is unfair and exploitative. If anybody says this, you should quote this verse. Krishna clearly explains why, what is the criteria for the divisions and the purpose. There is a purpose, right? So according to one's own nature, one is it is all right to be a Sudra because one's nature is to help other living entities, right? One need not feel uh, low or anything like that. If one's nature is to work for somebody else, like most of us, we all work for some other, company or somebody else. It's that nature, and one need not feel bad about it. That's what this verse is. There is nothing less or higher about it. Ultimately, the purpose is to connect with God. Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. So that completes accurate understanding. Now, the third section, verses 16 to 14, tells about how transcendental knowledge helps remove any reactions. Because any action you perform in this world, what happens with that? It would create reactions. And reactions, what do? They perpetuate our existence in this world. So one wants to understand how he can minimize the reactions for his actions and ultimately purify oneself and go back to God. So the effects of transcendental knowledge is that first thing is, like I said, I was so confused before coming to Krishna consciousness. I talked about many questions that were clarified. Who am I? Who is God? What's my relationship with Him? What is the purpose of existence? Why there are bad things happening to good people? Why I'm not the controller? Who is the controller really? All these things, right? These are all philosophical doubts. Why God created us? Why am I suffering in this world? Like so many questions. You all may not remember, but you all have answers to all these questions because you are in this path. Otherwise, you wouldn't have. I can tell you from my own experience. I have tried other paths. You won't get such clarity anywhere else. So first thing it does is clears up all philosophical doubts. Yeah? So when philosophical doubts are cleared, your path becomes so clear, isn't it? So and gives very authoritative understanding of the purpose of existence, right? Transcendental knowledge. So it gives very authoritative understanding of the purpose of existence with slokas, with cross references, very clearly authoritatively establishes the purpose of existence. It also, thirdly, and this section as it talks about, it also clears up karmic bank balance. So these are the effects of receiving transcendental knowledge. Because you know how to act going forward. You won't get stuck in this. You won't, at least you would not give chance to performing actions that would make you stuck in this world. And as we know, karma is a universal law of nature. For any action we perform, there is equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law, right? And it also clarifies that both good as well as bad karma should be avoided, because both of them are actually binding one to the material existence. So karma, whether it is good or bad, there will be merit or demerit, and there will be result accordingly, retribution, and one would have to come back to perform further karma. So either way, it is not good. You have to experience your pleasure or pain because of your good or bad karma. So you don't want to continue to exist in this world. So we understand transcendental knowledge reveals the universal law of nature, which is the karma, and helps also get out of that cycle, this cycle that this person is going through. Sometimes he does good activities, he gets some merits. He does bad activities, gets bad demerits, and accordingly it becomes his bank balance and comes back again in this life or in the future life. Retribution. So transcendental knowledge reveals that beyond good and bad activities, right, at a spiritual level, one can perform a karma, actions that yield no reaction. And actually, these actions not only give rise to no new reactions, it also burns away the existing past reactions of your life. So in that way, it will actually take away all the anxieties and entanglements of this world. And such action is called akarma. So as we already know, these are all nothing new for you. Karma, vikarma, and akarma. So there will be pious action results in reactions which are positive. Pious reactions. Forbidden action gives negative reactions. Right? Akarma gives no reactions.
Prabhu, is pious action sukarma or karma?
Karma. Karma means prescribed actions. The activities that are prescribed within the scriptures.
I thought pious karma is sukarma, right? Like there's also term sukarma. Right?
Sukarma. I need to check.
Okay.
So this akarma is also going to help remove the bank balance, right?
Yes.
Even though there is no reaction, it actually removes the past balance.
Yes, bro. Because, for example, akarma of offering food to Krishna, all these are akarma. They are actions, but actually, most of these actions are going to actually burn the reactions of the past. Because God is being pleased when you perform akarma, right? So when God is pleased, naturally there is grace. When grace comes upon you, Krishna will burn away all your bad karma. Chanting is a karma. It's an action, but no reaction. But the action of akarma is burning away all your past reactions. So that's why loving service is the motivation. And if somebody does out of duty, that may not be burning away. It stops reactions. Like karma yoga is not as purifying. It is purifying, but primarily towards non-accumulation of future karma, but not for burning away as much, right? So that's one thing. But Luckily, what we perform in devotional service, most of the activities like, offering, eating tulsi leaf, or, these are all activities, but actually they're all burning away karma. That's very fascinating when I learned first time, because it's far beyond being a karma yogi. It's every action you perform, you bow down before you head out of home. That is a act of devotion, and unknowingly we are like, just like, adding to your spiritual bank balance. So every action in as a devotee that that a devotee performs is helping him come close to Krishna, um, every moment to moment actually. So the and when consciousness is involved, many of us may not do consciously. That's the biggest problem. So if we do it consciously, that is the real, the X factor that really transforms this whole process into a, you know, the process that burns away past karma. If we unconsciously do, it has some positive effects, but not as much.
One example, Prabhuji. So,
One example, for example, uh, you saw Maharaj, right? For some Maharaj, okay, you saw Maharaj. You're in your mind. You're thinking about, some work or service. Uh, by your habit, unconsciously you just bowed down, but you did not have any reverential attitude in your heart. When when you bow down, if you felt, I was so fortunate that I was able to see this personality who has dedicated his life for God. If you felt like that in your consciousness, that has a different effect than when you just bow down out of habit, or, just like a ritual. You see, and what I'm saying. So the but of course both are beneficial, but the benefit of bowing down with reverence has far more spiritual significance. It has, because when you bow down, the grace is there anyway, because the spiritual master or the guru sees you and actually he appreciates. So this person is actually bowing down to me, but he's not bowing down to me. He's actually paying respects to Guru Parampara and Krishna ultimately. That's how he sees. And may Krishna's grace be upon him. If, if he feels like that, or if he feels that, you are so reverential like that, then you have achieved grace. But you may not have done consciously, right? From your side it's not pure effort, but because there is grace from the spiritual master, you have an effect on you. Okay, so irrespective, there could be effect, but the effect will be more if you are consciously doing that. Is that making sense?
yeah, Prabhuji, yeah. Yeah, another one more example. Also, if you take an example of not a karma, giving a charity to a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that binds us is a karma, pious activity.
It
So,
doesn't need to. If you are thinking, I am just a trustee of this wealth that Krishna somehow has given to me, and may I use this in, as his trustee, I want to help my fellow living entities. So in the process, suppose you constructed a hospital, that is fine, but you made sure every patient who comes there actually somehow or sees the pictures of Krishna, like, somewhere he's able to read Hare Krishna. See, the idea of Krishna consciousness is anything can be made Krishna conscious, except for the four, regulative. Like you cannot make a Brahndi bottle Krishna conscious. That's the only way. Like the four regulative principles that you break, that should not be broken. Except for those areas, anything you take, you can actually Krishnize. That's the, Yukta Vairagya principle, right? So you don't need to feel, oh, I should not be doing that. I cannot give money to beggar. No, when you instead you can give in a way, this requires some guidance. You give prasadam, or a book or clothes, something that you can not misuse, right? Like that, any activity you want to be charitable, you can be charitable, but you have to, make a little bit of adjustments here and there. But otherwise, you can do it.
yeah, charitable to hospital and charity to temple is different, right, Prabhuji? Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, at this point, I want to tell. I was hearing Radheshyam Prabhu's class this morning. Very nice example he gives about doing out of duty versus doing out of love. Suppose there was some announcement in the temple hall, that a sannyasi is coming tomorrow morning and he's going to give 2 Bhagavatam classes. No, we are all, there is no COVID. We're all in the temple hall, and suddenly, Maharaj announces this. Harivilash Maharaj, our dear Harivilash Maharaj, announces this, and everybody was very happy. Okay, and but Maharaj says, okay, but I want one of you to volunteer to bring him tomorrow morning, and he will be here in the airport at around 4 o'clock. So then all the devotees who have raised their hand, we will go, we will go. Now everybody is hesitant. Oh, morning 4 o'clock. I might be sleepy. I may, I may not be able to drive. So many hesitations come. Nobody would raise the hand. Then finally, say Maharaj picks 1 or 2 of you. So a couple of devotees were chosen, and these devotees were thinking, "Oh my God!" So Maharaj picked up, because out of respect for Maharaj, we cannot say no. At the same time, there is no pleasure in that in that activity of bringing Maharaj. So he would say, "Okay, somehow we'll get in car." Um, but another devotee, he has heard Maharaj lecture previously, and he was really, very much in love with the last time the class that he heard, and the kind of lessons he taken away. So he really had, you know it, some kind of a love for this Maharaj. He says, Maharaj, I want to volunteer to go. So all these devotees go together. You see the difference between the second person and the first person. The first person is doing out of duty. He has no love. But Maharaj told, he has to follow the instructions he will do. But the second person, he has some kind of a love for Maharaj. He wants to again hear that Maharaj lecture. He was eagerly looking forward, and he thinks that this is a great opportunity of service for what he has received in the past. You see the difference? And he is also going in the car to, with the other devotee to bring Maharaj. But his whole consciousness is very different. The first person was doing out of duty. He just goes there, um, he gets Maharaj in, and he just drives back. The second person was very inquisitive. He was uh, inquiring Maharaj about his health, and he was telling about what he has learned in his past visit. So there is a world of difference between doing things out of duty versus doing out of spontaneous love. For many of us, we don't have spontaneous love for chanting or hearing or many of the spiritual activities. So we are mostly doing out of duty, but ultimately we need to transform to that loving devotion service. When we do that, the progress is extremely fast, right? We should understand that. It's
Prabhu, can you explain a bit about Sakama Karma, Prabhu?
Sakama karma, Sakama karma, which means doing pious activities for one's profit. Okay. So when a jiva has faith in God, has faith in revealed scriptures, but he is still attached to the fruits of his activities, right? He still wants to enjoy, he wants to make some money, he still wants to buy a big home and buy a big car, or buy nice dresses. He has all these material desires still, but he's still coming to the temple, he's worshiping, he has faith in God. So such a person who knows the ultimate goal, but he's not able to follow, he is considered as karma. He's performing sakama karma. But when he starts following Gita, right, he understands the real purpose of life. There is a subtle transformation. The sakama karma the person performing sakama karma becomes a sakama karma yogi. He knows he's little guilty that he has all these attachments. He knows the purpose, but still he's still hanging on to his material desires, and so he's called a sakama karma yogi. Slowly, a sakama karma yogi transforms into nishkama karma yogi when he completely becomes detached, understands that you know all these material things are temporary and there is no real happiness. I should not even hanker for these material things. That is only disturbance to my head. I would rather completely and happily engage in giving pleasure to Krishna. That is my real happiness. When one realizes that, that's when he becomes a Nishkama Karma Yogi. You see the progression?
Yes, Prabhu.
Karma
Thank.
Kandi is aggressive materialist. He only comes to God for the purpose of his own pleasure. Otherwise, there is other ways to get. If there are other ways to get his pleasure, he would fulfill that way. So Karma Kandi is little lower than a Sakama Karma Yogi. His desires are the first order problem for him. He's not concerned what is the means to which he gets. Any means he gets, he is ready to follow. So that is Karma Kandi, right? Below that is animalistic, where a jiva is not at all having any faith in God, doesn't believe scriptures, so he just lives like an animal completely for his own pleasure. That is animalistic life. But when he realizes maybe by following scriptures I may get these results much faster, he has some faith in scripture, he becomes karmakandi. But he is aggressively self-fulfilling, selfishly motivated. So that is karmakandi. And when he realizes, you know, that this material fulfillment of material desires is not the goal, actually it is related to frustration, uh, then he becomes sakama karma yogi. He still has attachments, but he's not able to give up yet. When he chants, when he reads scriptures, when he meets association of saintly people, all of these things happen. Slowly he becomes nishkama karma yogi. I will do my duty, rest is in Krishna's hands. I should only do anything for Krishna's pleasure. That is nishkama karma yogi. He performs all actions, but his ultimate goal is the pleasure of Krishna, not fulfillment of his desires or any of that. Right? So that is nishkama karma yogi. And then bhakti yoga, which is do anything only for the pleasure of Krishna. Completely transcendental.
So, Prabhuji, Nishkama Karma Yoga
Mm-hmm.
is basically still doing as a matter of duty, but not out of spontaneous love for Krishna, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, even that comes under that. But if you consider like a bhakti yogi also performs nishkama karma yoga in that sense, right?
Mhm.
But nishkama karma yoga and bhakti yogi, both of them perform nishkama karma yoga means there is no selfish desire for enjoyment. Nishkama, there is no that lust for enjoying the fruits of his action. That is nishkama. It could be out of karma yoga, or it could be means it could be doing out of duty, not for the fruit, or doing out of love for God. Either of these fulfill the criteria of nishkama karma yoga. But nishkama karma or bhakti yoga is one step ahead, where he performs only for the pleasure of Krishna. Anything he does, he first starts by thinking, may I do this chanting for the pleasure of Krishna? May I do this cooking for the pleasure of Krishna? May I eat this for the pleasure of Krishna? So like that, everything he Krishnizes. So that's how it is, Bhakti Yogi. Yeah. So now we understand transcendental knowledge, the characteristics of transcendental knowledge, that it takes away all reactions. How do one acquire this knowledge? This transcendental knowledge can be acquired through the performance of sacrifice. What is a sacrifice? So sacrifice is not just lighting fire and burning wood. That is an act of sacrifice. But the principle of sacrifice is an act of giving up something that you want to have it for your own pleasure, for the pleasure of someone else. Especially, it is the highest when the pleasure, uh, that to whom we are directing is God. Hmm? Doing for the pleasure of God. Give me some examples of the sacrifices that devotees perform. Waking up in the morning, fasting, or chanting 16 rounds every single day. These are all kind of sacrifices. We need to, you could have spent the same time in something else. You could have
Going to
done
Sankirtan Prabhuji.
Serving Vaishnavas.
Sankirtan, serving Vaishnavas, cooking for Krishna,
Hearing classes.
hearing classes, especially tough ones like mine. Not very interesting, but still being patient. Or any of the, all these activities, you're giving your time, energy, abilities, strengths, writing exams for Krishna or whatever, Bhakti Sastri exam, or studying scriptures on your own, Swadhyaya. So these are all sacrifices, and all of them have result. Do not think that, oh, I'm doing this, nobody is watching, who knows whether I'm studying or not. Never think like that. It is, every action is counted in Krishna's diary. Okay, so all these are considered sacrifices, right?
A quick question.
Mhm.
Why it is called sacrifice? Because this is something which is our daily duty as a devotee. Why should we term it as sacrifice?
Ideally, it's not sacrifice, yes, but because what is called a sacrifice in this term is not for one's own bodily pleasure. Time that is not, no, if you consider from soul's perspective, it is not sacrifice. It is actually, it is the right things, right? Like Prahlad Maharaj said, this is the real interest of a jiva. And to serve Vishnu is the real interest of the jiva. But we are talking from, this is an instruction for the materialistic jiva. So from his perspective, this is a sacrifice because he could have spent for his own bodily pleasure this time that he was spending in all these activities, isn't it? So this
Correct.
is from the perspective of a student who is still on the material platform, not for the, the sacrifice word uh, has its own meaning, on based on who you are.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Material knowledge is dependent on one's caliber and talent, and it is predetermined mostly based on one's own karmic background, isn't it? But spiritual knowledge is dependent on one's character and the grace one receives, isn't it? So if you look at this, these two can be molded by anybody. Caliber you may not be able to increase, but character you can improve, isn't it? I mean, not possible for everyone. If somebody is grossly materialistic, it may not be possible, but um, yeah, so sacrifice helps one attain spiritual knowledge which is dependent on character and grace. Yeah, so Krishna ultimately tells by faithful service and sincere inquiry, um, right? No, actually, yeah. The biggest sacrifice is to relinquish one's pride by humbly submitting oneself before the bona fide Guru. Right? That's why we all accept ourselves under a bona fide Guru in Guru Parampara. Otherwise, nobody wants to submit in this world to somebody else. But when you surrender yourself to a Guru, a bona fide Guru coming in a Parampara, you do not you knowingly accepted that you do not know absolute truth. You need the help of a guru to overcome this material existence. You have accepted, you have surrendered yourself. So that is sign of surrendering one's pride. Actually accepting a guru and following his instruction also is required as part of it. So by faithful service and sincere inquiry in such a relationship with one's guru, the heart becomes a fertile ground for spiritual knowledge. No, fertile ground where spiritual knowledge can blossom. Right? I think this is good wording now. So this is about the last word, sacrifice. The ultimate sacrifice is to submit yourself to a spiritual master and inquire from him submissively and render service, and thus you would make your heart receptible to spiritual knowledge. Just like you see here a lotus, how it is blossoming. So similarly, spiritual knowledge blossoms in your heart when you surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. So that ends the chapter. I hope this is quick and brief summary of chapter 4. I hope it was very clear, or you have any?
Very nice, Prabhuji, very nice.
Okay. If you have any questions, we can discuss, or we'll discuss. The other thing is, I'll send Christmas holidays are coming. I'll send you question papers and assignments. If anybody wants to do study them, I'll send. Mataji asked me, but I forgot to send. I'm going to send it right after the class. Okay, so you can prepare first 4 chapters. I'll send 4 chapters material assignments as well as question and answers for the exam. Okay.
Prabhuji, the exam, which one Prabhu are referring to? Are you referring to individual
Yeah,
chapters?
individual chapter exams. If you have already done it, that's fine. You
Yeah.
don't need to do it. If you haven't done it, you can do it. Okay.
Sure, bro. Assignments we haven't done, so I can do it now.
Sure, bro. Okay, so we'll end the class. Anybody has any comments or questions? Anything could be explained better? Any feedback?
This is very good, Prabhuji. Sweet and simple.
Yeah. And I would request each of you to use these materials so you can present to your friends. This, if you present like this, right, they will easily connect with Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
If you start with slokas, sometimes they lose track of it. So this kind of gives, you can take this summary classes. I am, for every chapter I'm doing section summary and practical summary. So this is like practical summary. Next week we'll do section summary. So that way we cover both sides. In 36 weeks we can complete all the chapters, 36 to 40 weeks, right? So that's the idea of these classes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is the slides shared, Prabhu?
Yeah, I'll share these slides, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
I shared last.
Yeah, we got 3, Prabhu. 2, 3 we got. Yeah.
I will actually put them all in one place so it's easy to access.
OneDrive, Prabhu, it will be good.
Yeah, I'll put them in OneDrive or somewhere. I spent a couple of hours making this today.
Very good, Prabhu. As Narari Prabhu said, sweet and simple, adding to that crystal clear.